company want to join with our procurement. That is dedicated for this discussion. Thank you, Pak Yarto.
Thank you, Pak Dewanto. Please, a big round of applause to Pak Dewanto, Pak Eka, Pak Yudis, Pak Dharma, and also Pak Arthur for the first round of the conversations. It's getting interesting from PLN. One of the fundamental strategy to address the intermittency of increased renewable is, of course, investing on storage, battery storage. We're going to get into the grid later on, Pak Dewanto. But I would go back to Pak Arthur. We see that with renewable, the nature of renewable generation is distributed generations. And we also see Indonesia as an archipelagic country. What would be the recommendations from the IPP experiences in managing the shift from a big chunk of capacity individually to more smaller capacity and distributed across vast geographical Indonesian islands, Arthur?
Again, I think it's a challenge, but it's also an opportunity, right? One, I think, there are many ways to tackle it, right? One way is actually to look at the highest cost to electricity, right? We've looked at how to replace diesel, right? One of them, a lot of the diesel power plants are in these outlying islands, right? Remote islands off grid. They're not connected to the main grid, such as Java, Sumatra. So that's one way to tackle, right? Because the levelized cost of electricity from diesel is around maybe 18 to 25 cents. So that's easily solvable in terms of pricing and including the battery storage, because as Pak Dewanto said, I think if you want to replace diesel with something that is not base load, right, it will definitely require battery as energy storage as just one of the solutions. So I think having the opportunity to replace diesel, right, at a price that is attractive, I think there probably would, some people would like to commit to that, right, on a smaller scale. So that's one way of doing it. The other one, of course, is, as you mentioned, Indonesia being an archipelago country. I mean, we have our own internal presentation always comparing the integration of renewable energy, especially variable renewable energy in compared to, say, the ASEAN countries, right? We know countries such as, just in ASEAN alone, Vietnam has been very aggressive in increasing its wind and solar, as well as Thailand, right? Followed by other countries. But I think Indonesia is very much lagging behind, right? Less than 1 gigawatt has been installed, coming from these two sources of energy. So I think one challenge is actually, of course, we are not connected, right? Not even Java and Sumatra, the two largest islands, are connected. So in terms of the distribution of energy as well, both from the supply side and this demand side is very different. There is always a map. I'm sure a lot of you have seen it before, right? Indonesia during nighttime, right? And you can see how the glow of the light emitting from some of the large populated cities, such as Jakarta, Surabaya, Bandung, right? Medan, right? These areas are really bright, right? And then as you go towards the east, right? It's almost dark, as if there is not a single light is available in Indonesia. That kind of just shows the geographical distribution of energy at the moment, right? Where the demand is, where it's actually being generated. So, but again, it's an opportunity. As you know, there is a lot of new industrial estates that is being developed. I know Dharma's group is developing a huge one in a province bordering the Borneo part of Malaysia, right? Sabah Sarawak, the North Kalimantan project, which will focus very much on developing a renewable industrial estate, right? We've seen a lot of successful industrial estates for the smelter, for the downstream, right? In Morowali and Weda Bay and things like that. But a lot of them are still very fossil-based, right? So this is a bit of a breakthrough. So I mentioned a few things that are small scale, distributed, like de-desalination, as well as large-scale solutions such as building a hydro dam that will generate 100% renewable energy for an industrial state. So you kind of match the demand and the supply where they are. So it's very much a tailored solution, unlike countries such as Vietnam and Thailand that I mentioned earlier, which is sort of a land-based, right? It's a challenge to connect the grid. I haven't mentioned about the grid interconnection, but I think it's more that the way we look at from the private investment is just to tackle projects one at a time, whether they be large scale or small scale, or trying to meet supply and demand where they are in Indonesia. So it's an interesting challenge and an opportunity as well.
Thank you, Pa Arthur. It's interesting, right, to see that Indonesia, due to the geographical locations, cannot adopt the energy transition strategy that is continental based. So Indonesia must develop its own relevant strategy, right, to address all of those complexity with the small islands and distributed area and interconnections. Will you see an uptake in application of a new members for your association, Pa, with all of this opportunity?
Absolutely. I mean, we always welcome new members, right? A lot of our members are very established energy companies, but they're very progressive in terms of wanting more and more renewable and green projects, right? There's a lot of associations. We're not the only one, right? And we all are under the big umbrella of Kadin, right? There's a lot of energy players there. But of course, I think the more the merrier, as they say, right? The more participants, the better in terms of being able to successfully implement the newly launched RGPTL.
Thank you, Pa Arthur. So we've been touching about the intermittent renewables, right? So now let's get back to Pa Yudis as the one with renewable baseload capability based on the geothermal. And Indonesia is also unique in terms of energy transition space, that Indonesia is blessed with a large capacity of geothermal that could serve as the renewable baseload. Pa Yudis, what would be then the visions of Geodipa Energy in contributing toward the successful implementation of the new visions of Indonesia in decarbonizing the energy sectors?
Yeah, thank you, Pak. Yes, actually, if we're talking about the transition energy, meaning we decarbonize our coal-fired power plants. So then we should find the similarity of the characteristic of the coal power plant. In renewable energy, we just only call geothermal and hydro. Hydro in specific purpose that can be the base load power plant as well. So talking about the geothermal, the difficulties actually, yes, as Pak Eka said about the economic project of economic, because if we're talking about the geothermals, meaning that the geothermal is already capture all the primary energy at site. So meaning we not need as like a coal or gas power plant, we should purchase the primary energy, but in the geothermal we already acquired the primary energy as well. So if we're talking about the geothermal as the base load power plant in order to substitute the coal-fired plants, it is, for us, it is more benefit if we are in the grid systems already. So if we say, let's say, we got also assignment from the government for the geothermal development at the North Maluku, that we know very well there is numbers of smelter who will be developed there for gold mining and also nickel. But the limitation, if we're talking about the power baseload for the kind of the smelters, we need others typical power plant who could cover about the picking of the smelter necessary actually. So we cannot use the geothermal as a load follower as well, and even and then also for the peaker. That's the limitation nowadays. So I think it is also the challenge for the geothermal if we talking about how we could fit in the grid and then supporting the base load and also as the load followers. Then the technology of the extraction of the steam and the brine due to the technology of power plant should be followed by the industry as well. So I mean, at least the geothermal, if could follow, could act as the load follower, I think the numbers of problem can be solved by the geothermal itself. Geodipa right now, actually, because we're quite lucky, Pak, we have two main geothermal area here in Jawa, like the Dieng and Patuha. And then we had a contract with the PLN, try how to immediate to fulfill up to 800 megawatt. So now we are on the process of constructions or our Dieng number 2. It will be 55 megawatts, and then also the Patuhan number 2, and then also 55 megawatts. Then hopefully it will be on the grid, Pak Dewanto, by late 2026 up to in the mid 2027. That's probably our Geodipa perspective about how the geothermal could replace as base loader power plants. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Yudi. So it's an opportunity also for the geothermal. However, the takeaway is that it has to be part of those power system design in how to fit in those renewable baseload, potential renewable baseload into the system. So we look into the opportunity, we look into the challenges of the intermittencies that PLN is addressing it by planning that a certain capacity of storage in a certain area, but it's also the message that we hear from both investors and Pak Dewanto is the importance of also not just managing the supply, but also managing the demand. Right, and matching the demand where it is. We heard before hints on a commercial challenges, and now let's hear from Pak Eka and Pak Dharma. At national level and perhaps at regional or local level, what kind of reform or policies, innovations that the investor expect to see to help executing this huge undertaking of building a new energy infrastructure that is low carbon. Let's start with Pak Eka and then Pak Dharma, please.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting discussion, Pak. I think the way the investor or us would like to see here is this. There are two sides of the coin, yeah, on energy transition and renewable. Is it a problem for Indonesia or opportunities? Yeah, because we think that renewable is more expensive than at this moment, the energy or fossil fuel that have been subsidized by the government. I think we need to see it from the opportunity point of view, simply because, unlike other country, yeah, Indonesia is being blessed. Being blessed of, I think everybody know here that Indonesia at this moment probably has the biggest renewable potential, 3,800 gigawatt, right? Not only that, Pak, I mean, we have also a lot of critical minerals for the transition. And if we like to go even further downstream, we have huge potential of CO2 storage capacities. Based on the study, Indonesia at this moment have 3,000 to 400 gigaton CO2 capacities. It's enough to capture all the CO2 of Indonesia for 400 years, Pak. And actually, the things that I mentioned have a value, yeah. And if we be able to use this, yeah, for our engine growth for Indonesia, those potential can be one of the things that we can use, you know, to boost our economic growth. So green economy, energy transition can be actually a potential, Pak. And in order us to do that, I think we need to look at not only domestic market. We need to look at regional market. Why? Let me tell you the story of Indonesia grew on the 70s and 80s, or 60s, 70s, and 80s. At the time, Indonesia hit, the economic growth even higher than 8%. Yeah. Why? Because at the time, Indonesia used its fossil fuel, gas, oil, for two things. Number one, for economic growth, for income, and to boost enabling Indonesia domestic market also. So actually, if we can use those potential 3,800 gigawatt of potential to be used, as an enabler, for us to move forward, I think the issues of a problem of us, trying to ensure that the industry is growing, the technology need to be there, the investment need to be coming, will be resolved. So, in order us to do that, I think we need to be very open. Yeah, I think we need to look at these resources as basically a bless for us. We need to look at the regional as the whole. Yeah, ASEAN is a huge market. ASEAN is 700 million people with 3.7 trillion, with all the demand that we can have. So I think a combination of Indonesian demand, I think Pak Wanhar and also Pak Dewanto has mentioned that, for the next 10 years, we need to build, almost 46 gigawatt, Pak, and then 10 gigawatt of batteries. But if you look at regional as the whole, yeah, it's also a lot of demand. But the most important thing here is that the premium market. So I think in summary, I think we need to combine those. We need to look at our resources. The governments and the private sector need to work it out and need to ensure that the things that we have in hand, can be monetized together. Yeah, but not only for domestic consumption, but also for regional, for the sake of what? For the sake of industries growth and also enablers, for us to push the growth of the renewable business. So I think, in summary, I think we see that Indonesia has huge potentials. We need to work together to ensure that we can monetizing it for domestic and for regional purposes. Thank you.
Before going to Pak Dharma, it's an interesting view that, we see Indonesia with such a huge plan for the next 10 years. And Pak Eka is challenging us to look even beyond Indonesia, look into the regions that the potential growth are much bigger. And perhaps it's that taking into account that combining both potential demand for investors that could help in the economic of the investments?
I think to be honest with you, the answer is yes. And I think we can learn from the past experience. When Indonesia need to grow the industry, internal growth, at that time, we look at, resources as basically ways to, monetizing it. And then by doing that, we'll be able to enjoy a very high level of growth, plus also some of the energy can be used for the internal usage. We can see from gas, for example, at this moment, half of it being export for revenues, half of it for domestic, and later we can discuss about how we're going to do this in terms of domestic market obligations, revenues, industry, TKDN and everything, so on and so on. But one thing for sure that we are blessed with that potential, I think we need to be smart in using it, Pak.
Thank you. Pak Dharma, please.
So the good thing of speaking after Pak Eka is everything's already mentioned. So I don't know this. But I think, so I agree with everything, but let me go on a more micro level, right? So I think if the problem statement is how to accelerate sustainable infrastructure development, right? The key challenge is, okay, setting aside technical issues, right? the key challenge is commercial, right? So, and for the audience, so in a normal coal-fired or gas-fired power plant, you know, it's a baseload energy, right? And geothermal as well is baseload, right? It's on 24 hours a day, right? Solar is only on 5 hours a day, right? Wind and so forth, same. So then you have to use battery. So the technical solution is there. But then the issue is the price, right? So standalone coal, 5 to 7 cents, right? Standalone solar, probably the same. But once you add battery, it goes up very, very, very quickly, right? It goes up to 20 cents very quickly. So then the question is how to close that gap, right, on the commercial. And this is, I think, what Pak Eka is alluding to. But I think if I focus on the domestic only, there is a solution, a creative solution, which is the carbon trading part, right? So the demand, so the question is, who is willing to pay a premium for renewable energy? Right? And some companies are already willing to do it, but not all, right? So the problem we have is that the companies who are willing to pay for it is probably in Jakarta or in Java, right? Whereas the solar or the geothermal or the wind is in Sulawesi, right? So how to connect that, right? So one way to do it is with cable, obviously, but the other way is if we have this market, right, where people who's willing to pay the extra charge from who's based in Jakarta, who's based in Java or wherever, can buy from a renewable energy credit that is generated in Sulawesi, then obviously there's a ready-made solution. There's a market solution that is financed, and the beauty of it is doesn't require taxpayer money, right? It's all commercial, and that can help accelerate the development. And I think that's a little bit what Pak Eka was saying as well, right? And I think once you spur this on, and then their scale, on the scale point, what I want to mention is also, it's also important that the ecosystem is there, right? The ideal for Indonesia, right, sustainable infrastructure, we don't just want to develop wind power plants or solar power plants or what have you. Right? We want to develop the industry here as well, right? So we want to develop the battery industry, tadi Pak Dewanto mentioned, right? We want to develop the solar industry here. So I think having enough scale, whether it's through internationalization or whether it's through carbon credit, renewable energy credit trading, or through cables or what have you, I think having that scale, right, and proving the concept very quickly, then you generate enough interest and enough money for people to build the ecosystem here, then the prices go down, and then it becomes a virtuous circle very, very soon. And so I think that's the key.
Thank you, Pak Dharma. That's a very, very important messages from Pak Eka and Pak Dharma. If I could summarize it, is that it is important to look into the value chains in this industry, right? Not just the upstream side of the power generations. And that value chains, there are two things in there. One is actually the industry itself that support the supply chains, the value chains, and building at scale a local manufacturing, for example, for renewable technologies and renewable components. On the other side is also looking into value chains, so as the investor, not only relying the return based on the single PPA only. So it's opened up into other opportunities in monetizing the value of low carbon solution, right? Pak Dharma mentioned very specifically the example of enabling the investor to realize the value of their carbon credit, right? And for sure, there are perhaps many other innovations in terms of the commercial that we need to look at to then add value into the new investment in low carbon solutions and realize what Pak Eka termed it as a green economic multiplier effect. Right, as well. So once again, thank you very much, and a big round of applause to all the panelists. And we're going to close the session. It's a very interesting discussion. If you allow me, we're just going to continue and have this conversation until this evening. But let's close by getting all the panelists, start with Pak Dewanto. In your view, the space of collaborations, especially between PLN and their partner, right? In here we have the state-owned enterprise, we have also the private sectors. How are we going to shape the new collaborative playing arena? So as you know, all of these concerns, both technical, commercial, and also regulatory aspect, that we can work it out together. What would be the new things that we could do here? So let's start with Pak Dewanto.
Thank you, Pak. This is still issue for commercial. So on the businessman to decide join the project or not. But technically, I think so. Many developers can do anything regarding the project, execution the project. They have the skill, and shortlist company, not only local company, but international company join this, our shortlist company. Financial is very difficult, I think, to decide, because many consideration from the businessman. But the IPP is the one-off scheme. This is a main point for the competition. Competition for technically of technology, competition of financial, and this is challenging for the businessman. PLN is still open to technology. If you see the previous RBTL and new RBTL, the biggest difference on the main is providing the battery standalone. This is first time in this RBTL. This is to answer for the big question regarding intermittency, and we will conduct also pump storage. Not pump storage to flexible response, but the battery very competition, very compete with different with pump storage. This is technology choosing for the developers and PLN. And for the conducting battery in grid standalone, majority scheme IPP, not PLN. PLN need collaboration with the stakeholder. In every procurement, PLN still with coming, debate shortlist. Debate shortlist after register and pass with debate shortlist, automatically PLN invite small scale until the big scale. And for the new RBTL, state the binding project. Totally, we will prepare the step 1, 250 megawatt PV without battery in Java system consists of the 4 project. This is will the effort from PLN to encourage maybe any businessman need the economic scale, because we have regarding related with financial interest rate and anything economic global is currently, but not only standalone project in small scale, we binding in large project. Not only PV, we try to enter wind power. This is our best effort for the PLN and execution massive for the RBTL.
Thank you, Pak Dewanto. So as deliberately PLN opens up the collaborations and invites as many potential partners as possible from the investor, from private sectors, right? Let's start 2 minutes each from Pak Arthur, Pak Dharma, Pak Eka, and then Pak Yudis, please.
Thank you. just to summarize, I think, again, we're very positive with this new RPTL. It does require a lot of collaboration, as mentioned by Pak Dewanto, between state-owned and private sector, right, to collaborate. There's a few schemes that are available at the moment, right, with the procurement side, either through EPC or co-partnering with one of the PLN subsidiary, NP or IP, or just a pure PPA, IPP base, right? So there's a few options there. And we're looking at the carbon market as sort of a carrot and stick enabler, right? There's the carbon, the emission trading system is there in the market now, both through a cap and trade as well as tax. And now we're looking at the REC as a potential for developers into the green economy, whether that we can tap into that as well. So that's something that we're also trying to develop going forward. Another one it's mentioned is how to integrate more and more renewable into the system, right? We're very much fossil dependent, so I think integrating renewable is key. I think there's a few solutions, using base loads such as geothermal and hydro, or maybe solar and wind with battery. But one I need to touch upon is also the modernizing of the grid, right? I think a lot of the power has been centralized, so now it's going to be decentralized, and it's going to be work both ways, right? So the ability to be able to have a decentralized power integrating variable will also require a lot of investment in transmission. So the private sector is also welcoming that, whether there's an opportunity to tap into that to also accelerate the development of power in Indonesia. Thank you. Thanks.
I'll be quite quick, but I think, as mentioned before, I think actions speak louder than words, and I think our actions have shown that we are fully committed towards renewables. I think we are definitely consistently committed to supporting government and PLN, so that goes without saying. We are open to collaborate and with anyone, in the broader sense of collaboration. Just look at our partner list. We've partnered with Japanese, we've partnered with Koreans, we've partnered with Chinese, partnered with Europeans. So we partner with pretty much everybody, right? So we're open to collaboration. Whoever can help solve the problems that Indonesia and us are facing. And I think the one point I want to make as well about our group is that we have this belief that you need to grow the cake, right? To be a great company, you need to be in a great country. So I think it's our commitment as well to always help and assist Indonesia, right? Whether the government, PLN, what have you, to grow the pie for everybody so everybody can prosper.
Thank you. Pak Eka?
I think the discussion of energy transition, green energy, is actually our opportunities for Indonesia Emas. I think I agree with everybody what people said here. We have a great demand. PLN and the government has already mentioned about RUPTL, which is heavy on green energy. The good thing here is that we have enormous resources of renewables and all enablers like critical minerals and also carbon storage. So from that resources side, we are there. From demand side is also there. I believe there is a lot of space for everybody. I think you mentioned about value chains from the upstream to the local contents, to the industry, financing and everything. So there's a lot of opportunity for everybody, all of us here in the room. What we need to do here is that, we need to have a positive collaboration. For sure, we need a government support. People already mentioned about regulatory framework need to be established properly. Incentive need to be there, right? And then from PN side, we need to work together, Pak, to simplify the process, bankable PPA, things like that. And from the private sectors, I think we are, of course, more than happy to contribute. This is our countries, this is where we are going to grow ourselves. And then this opportunity for us to, use the green energy or green economy to prosper, ourselves or to the countries. Thank you.
Pak Yudis.
Baik, thank you, Pak. I think here we're talking a power as energy power as infrastructures. Actually, we are not talking about the power system. The power system is already stated by PLN through the RUPTL. So how we as a IPP could fulfill the quota of the renewable energy that has been stipulated by PLN in RUPTL, the numbers, the megawatt, and so on. So the infrastructure system is there already. So then how we could collaborate among ourselves and then try to fulfill what the RUPTL requests us to fulfill. And then we believe that the governments is also have numbers of framework and then also the facility in order to accelerate the infrastructure, but how to get the numbers of facility of the government, that's become the issue right now. And we hope that we could also give the recommendation and proposal to the government how the government could manage the numbers of facility. And then hopefully the creative financings, if we're talking about the renewable energy, that's the time for us to make the more creative financing. That's it for me.
Thank you, Pak Yudis. Please, a big round of applause to all of our panelists. There are several takeaways in our discussion today that the latest RUPTL, the ambitious plan to build a new huge capacity of renewable power infrastructure in Indonesia must be seen as an opportunity. And perhaps it is time that we need to look into the whole value chain so as the evaluation is not just based on LCOE, which is just on the upstream side of it, right? Levelized cost of electricity generations, but perhaps it's a time we look into the levelized system cost or perhaps system value that it is creating in terms of these new ecosystems. We should never forget the complexity that intermittent renewable brings into the power systems. Storage is one thing, but it's also, we have yet to touch about the issue of stability and inertia of the grid. For example, Pak Dewanto, that's for some other time. And hence, Pak Arthur reminded us that let's not forget about the need to modernize and invest on the grid. And also, on behalf of the independent power producers and would-be investors, the investors are also seeking an opportunity if they could partners with PLN in terms of investing in modern grid. Correct, Pak Arthur, right? Yeah, the view as a system, not to miss the opportunity for Indonesia to realize the green economic multiplier effect with perhaps the onus is also on us to not only innovate in terms of the technology solutions, but it's also to innovate and to transform, evolve further the commercial construct of renewable energy businesses. Yeah, in a different model of PPA, for example, more investable PPA, some rooms for legal and commercial innovation also there. And it's also, this is the space for even more closer collaborations. All the representative of the stakeholders has already put down their commitment in working together and supporting the vision and the ambitions of executing the next 42.5 gigawatt of renewable capacity in Indonesia, plus 10 gigawatt of battery storage, plus the new and modern grid, interconnecting some part of the remote area in Indonesia, as well as allowing the grid to support the security and the inertia of more renewable capacity. Thank you very much for being with us today, and I return to the committee. And once again, please, a big round of applause to Pak Arthur, Pak Dharma, Pak Dewanto, Pak Eka Satria, and also Pak Yudis. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, another round of applause for the very fruitful session. Thank you once again for the speakers, the esteemed moderator, and the panelists. You may return to your seats immediately. All right, as we conclude our session on powering growth, sustainable energy through infrastructure, I believe there was one key takeaway from this whole panel session, is that the future isn't shaped by vision, but by bold execution. Please please allow me to remind all of you that the ICI 2025 project catalog can be fully accessed at the infrastructureconference.id/project-catalog. Here, you can find the comprehensive overview of every project with each contact person to arrange one-on-one meetings. We also remind you that there will be held a business matching tomorrow, Thursday, 12th of June, through the Ministry of Housing and Settlements in Nuri Room at 9 a.m. and Ministry of Public Works at Murai Room at 12:30 p.m. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for the very fruitful session. Feel free to leave the room for a short break, and we will resume promptly at 3 p.m. for the next thematic session on the theme Decarbonizing Transport. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and enjoy your break.
We, Utama Karya, present our innovations in the construction industry with every changing era. Supported by the professionals in their fields, the latest construction technology operation techniques. We commit to generate best outcomes, aiming to deliver an equitable distribution of beneficial infrastructure for the entire country and build a bright future for our civilization. Our flagship infrastructure works from bridges, buildings, dams, and sustainable toll road infrastructures, showcasing our high commitment to protecting nature and the environment. We believe that our every step will shape our future, ensuring a developed future Indonesia. Utama Karya, innovation for solution.
Impian untuk hidup yang lebih berwarna, lebih dekat, lebih berarti. Karena rumah bukan sekadar bangunan, tapi sebuah benih untuk masa depan. Ini visi kami untuk menjadi pengembang pemukiman dan perumahan rakyat terpercaya di Indonesia. Bersama sejumlah lembaga terkemuka, Perumnas menyatukan impian dan menenun harapan kepemilikan rumah bagi setiap anak negeri. Dalam kebersamaan, kita menciptakan dunia bagi benih muda untuk tumbuh, belajar, dan berkembang. Perumnas, sebuah simfoni mimpi di mana setiap sekatnya membawa benih harapan akan masa depan yang lebih cerah. Bersama, kita bisa mewujudkan impian di tanah air tercinta.
For more than 7 decades, PLN has carried out the state's mandate to electrify the whole Indonesian archipelago. PLN is entering a new chapter in its transformation, aiming to become not just a power and utility company, but also a technology company based on innovations. All of this is to improve service quality, strengthening the domestic industrial ecosystem, and increasing competitiveness in the global stage.
Ini cerita akselerasi kita yang selalu aja ada tantangan pas kita lagi melesat.
Berat banget ya.
Mau nyerah aja. Enggak kan?
No lah, big no.
Bagus. Ini waktunya akselerasi. Makin banyak tantangan, makin banyak jalan. Ya nggak sih?
Yoi!
Asal...
Niat!
Nah gitu. Kalau mau berakselerasi itu harus rame-rame.
Serame ini.
Yes! Mantap!
Menyala bangku!
Yeah! Gak cuma sekedar wujudin mimpi, tapi ciptain inovasi. Semangat akselerasi ngedorong kita untuk terus berkolaborasi, biar ngasih impact positif buat bangsa Indonesia. Ayo, wujudin swasembada energi dengan terus berakselerasi tanpa henti. Pertamina, energizing the acceleration, energizing you.
Perubahan pasti terjadi. Tak bisa dihindari, taklukkan semua ambisi. Berjalan seiring perubahan, jelajahi semua kemajuan zaman. Tunjukkan pada dunia kita mampu berelevasi jadi bangsa yang luar biasa.
Tumbuh kembang kami juga memberikan makna dan arti. Betapa pentingnya peran kami yang tak pernah lepas dalam hadirkan konektivitas. Karena kami yakin dan mampu untuk terus lewati batas dan merajut konektivitas. Indonesia.
Indonesia, a land of natural beauty and cultural diversity. The Ministry of State-Owned Enterprises has initiated a breakthrough by synergizing all state-owned enterprises in tourism through the Indonesia Journey, or InJourney. From airport and cargo services, tourist destination development, heritage and attraction management, hotels, retail management, to international events and our creative industries.
Kami percaya bahwa setiap hasil yang kami ciptakan adalah komitmen dari tanggung jawab kami menjawab perubahan. Perubahan menuju masa depan yang lebih baik, menciptakan mimpi menjadi kenyataan, mimpi bagi banyak orang, dan memberikan solusi untuk kemudahan. Kami merupakan manufaktur kereta api yang terintegrasi pertama di Asia Tenggara. Fokus kami adalah menghasilkan produk yang berkualitas tinggi di bidang perkeretaapian. Kami adalah mitra untuk membangun masa depan. Kami terus menatap ke depan untuk terus berinovasi, mengembangkan visi besar, membangun industri transportasi yang lebih baik.
When convenience is out of reach, only limitations remain. Constrained business navigation limits the potential growth. In business, flexibility is everything. It's time to unleash your business potential beyond limitation. BNI Direct is here to provide solutions. One unified digital platform with a diverse financial solutions to elevate your business to a whole new level. BNI Direct, directing your business to new heights.
Indonesia is the world's largest island country, consisting of over 17,000 islands. This would be a special agency to manage and guarantee the availability of land, to control the land, to manage the land use for economic development, including for public infrastructure, housing, investment, and agrarian reform. Land Bank Authority is a special agency or sui generis entity established by the central government in December 31st, 2021, given special authority to manage land.
Latar belakang berdirinya Badan Bank Tanah karena adanya ketidakseimbangan yang besar antara permintaan dan persediaan tanah, sehingga perlunya peran pemerintah untuk menguasai, mengendalikan, dan menyediakan tanah bagi pembangunan dan pemerataan ekonomi.
In line with responsibilities given by the Indonesian President and Land Bank Committee of 3 ministers, Land Bank Authority has a vision and mission to being catalyst for Indonesian economic growth. Land Bank Authority vision is to become a trustworthy land manager based on good governance to guarantee economic growth and economic equality. Land Bank Authority mission is to carry out various efforts related to land bank operational for public interest, social interest, national development interest, economic equality, land consolidation, and agrarian reforms, as well as improving community welfare to provide employment. Land Bank Authority is given special authority by the central government to following functions, specifically planning, land acquisition, land procurement, land management, land utilization, and land distribution.
Harapan Badan Bank Tanah yaitu menjadi lembaga yang terpercaya dalam rangka menciptakan ekonomi berkeadilan di bidang pertanahan untuk meningkatkan kesejahteraan rakyat.
With the responsibilities given to Land Bank Authority, we are confident we can increase the economic growth and justice for Indonesian citizens.
We, Hutama Karya, present our innovations in the construction industry with every changing era. Supported by the professionals in their fields, the latest construction technology operation techniques. We commit to generate best outcomes, aiming to deliver an equitable distribution of beneficial infrastructure for the entire country and build a bright future for our civilization. Our flagship infrastructure works from bridges, buildings, dams, and sustainable toll road infrastructures, showcasing our high commitment to protecting nature and the environment. We believe that our every step will shape our future, ensuring a developed future Indonesia. Hutama Karya, innovation for solution.
Impian untuk hidup yang lebih berwarna, lebih dekat, lebih berarti. Karena rumah bukan sekadar bangunan, tapi sebuah benih untuk masa depan. Ini visi kami untuk menjadi pengembang pemukiman dan perumahan rakyat terpercaya di Indonesia. Bersama sejumlah lembaga terkemuka, Perumnas menyatukan impian dan menenun harapan kepemilikan rumah bagi setiap anak negeri. Dalam kebersamaan, kita menciptakan dunia bagi benih muda untuk tumbuh, belajar, dan berkembang. Perumnas, sebuah simfoni mimpi di mana setiap sekatnya membawa benih harapan akan masa depan yang lebih cerah. Bersama, kita bisa mewujudkan impian di tanah air tercinta.
For more than 7 decades, PLN has carried out the state's mandate to electrify the whole Indonesian archipelago. PLN is entering a new chapter in its transformation, aiming to become not just a power and utility company, but also a technology company based on innovations. All of this is to improve service quality, strengthening the domestic industrial ecosystem, and increasing competitiveness in the global stage.
Ini cerita akselerasi kita yang selalu aja ada tantangan pas kita lagi melesat.
Berat banget ya.
Mau nyerah aja, enggak kan?
No lah, big no.
Bagus, ini waktunya akselerasi. Makin banyak tantangan, makin banyak jalan. Ya nggak sih?
Yoi!
Asal...
Niat!
Nah gitu. Kalau mau berakselerasi itu harus rame-rame.
Rame ini?
Yes! Mantap!
Menyala bangku!
Yeah! Gak cuma sekedar wujudin mimpi, tapi ciptain inovasi. Semangat akselerasi ngedorong kita untuk terus berkolaborasi, biar ngasih impact positif buat bangsa Indonesia. Ayo, wujudin swasembada energi dengan terus berakselerasi tanpa henti. Pertamina, energizing the acceleration, energizing you.
Perubahan pasti terjadi. Tak bisa dihindari, taklukkan semua ambisi. Berjalan seiring perubahan, jelajahi semua kemajuan zaman. Tunjukkan pada dunia, kita mampu berelevasi jadi bangsa yang luar biasa.
Tumbuh kembang kami juga memberikan makna dan arti. Betapa pentingnya peran kami yang tak pernah lepas dalam hadirkan konektivitas. Kami yakin dan mampu untuk terus lewati batas dan merajut konektivitas. Indonesia.
Indonesia, a land of natural beauty and cultural diversity. The Ministry of State-Owned Enterprises has initiated a breakthrough by synergizing all state-owned enterprises in tourism through the Indonesia Journey, or InJourney. From airport and cargo services, tourist destination development, heritage and attraction management, hotels, retail management, to international events and our creative industries.
Kami percaya bahwa setiap hasil yang kami ciptakan adalah komitmen dari tanggung jawab kami menjawab perubahan. Perubahan menuju masa depan yang lebih baik, menciptakan mimpi menjadi kenyataan, mimpi bagi banyak orang, dan memberikan solusi untuk kemudahan. Kami merupakan manufaktur kereta api yang terintegrasi pertama di Asia Tenggara. Fokus kami adalah menghasilkan produk yang berkualitas tinggi di bidang perkeretaapian. Kami adalah mitra untuk membangun masa depan. Kami terus menatap ke depan untuk terus berinovasi, mengembangkan visi besar, membangun industri transportasi yang lebih baik.
When convenience is out of reach, only limitations remain. Constrained business navigation limits the potential growth. In business, flexibility is everything. It's time to unleash your business potential beyond limitation. BNI Direct is here to provide solutions. One unified digital platform with a diverse financial solutions to elevate your business to a whole new level. BNI Direct, directing your business to new heights.
Indonesia is the world's largest island country, consisting of over 17,000 islands. This would be a special agency to manage and guarantee the availability of land, to control the land, to manage the land use for economic development, including for public infrastructure, housing, investment, and agrarian reform. Land Bank Authority is a special agency or sui generis entity established by the central government in December 31st, 2021, given special authority to manage land.
Latar belakang berdirinya Badan Bank Tanah karena adanya ketidakseimbangan yang besar antara permintaan dan persediaan tanah, sehingga perlunya peran pemerintah untuk menguasai, mengendalikan, dan menyediakan tanah bagi pembangunan dan pemerataan ekonomi.
In line with responsibilities given by the Indonesian President and Land Bank Committee of 3 ministers, Land Bank Authority has a vision and mission to being catalyst for Indonesian economic growth. Land Bank Authority vision is to become a trustworthy land manager based on good governance to guarantee economic growth and economic equality. Land Bank Authority mission is to carry out various efforts for public interest, social interest, national development interest, economic equality, land consolidation, and agrarian reform, improving community welfare to provide employment. Land Bank Authority is given special authority by the central government to following functions, specifically planning, land acquisition, land procurement, land management, land utilization, and land distribution.
Harapan Badan Bank Tanah yaitu menjadi lembaga yang terpercaya dalam rangka menciptakan ekonomi berkeadilan di bidang pertanahan untuk meningkatkan kesejahteraan rakyat.
With the responsibilities given to Land Bank Authority, we are confident we can increase the economic growth and justice for Indonesian citizens.
We, Hutama Karya, present our innovations in the construction industry with every changing era. Supported by the professionals in their fields, the latest construction technology operation techniques. We commit to generate best outcomes aiming to deliver an equitable distribution of beneficial infrastructure for the entire country and build a bright future for our civilization. Our flagship infrastructure works from bridges, buildings, dams, and sustainable toll road infrastructures, showcasing our high commitment to protecting nature and the environment. We believe that our every step will shape our future, ensuring a developed future Indonesia. Utama Karya, innovation for solution.
Impian untuk hidup yang lebih berwarna, lebih dekat, lebih berarti. Karena rumah bukan sekadar bangunan, tapi sebuah benih untuk masa depan. Ini visi kami untuk menjadi pengembang pemukiman dan perumahan rakyat terpercaya di Indonesia. Bersama sejumlah lembaga terkemuka, Perumnas menyatukan impian dan menenun harapan kepemilikan rumah bagi setiap anak negeri. Dalam kebersamaan, kita menciptakan dunia bagi benih muda untuk tumbuh, belajar, dan berkembang. Perumnas, sebuah simfoni mimpi di mana setiap sekatnya membawa benih harapan akan masa depan yang lebih cerah. Bersama, kita bisa mewujudkan impian di tanah air tercinta.
For more than 7 decades, PLN has carried out the state's mandate to electrify the whole Indonesian archipelago. PLN is entering a new chapter in its transformation, aiming to become not just a power and utility company, but also a technology company based on innovations. All of this is to improve service quality, strengthening the domestic industrial ecosystem, and increasing competitiveness in the global stage.
Ini cerita akselerasi kita yang selalu aja ada tantangan pas kita lagi melesat.
Berat banget ya.
Mau nyerah aja? Enggak kan?
No lah, big no.
Bagus. Ini waktunya akselerasi. Makin banyak tantangan, makin banyak jalan. Ya nggak sih?
Yoi.
Asal.
Niat.
Nah, gitu. Kalau mau berakselerasi itu harus rame-rame.
Rame ini.
Yes, mantap.
Menyala bangku.
Yeah. Gak cuma sekedar wujudin mimpi, tapi ciptain inovasi. Semangat akselerasi ngedorong kita untuk terus berkolaborasi, biar ngasih impact positif buat bangsa Indonesia. Ayo, wujudin swasembada energi dengan terus berakselerasi tanpa henti. Pertamina, energizing the acceleration, energizing you.
Perubahan pasti terjadi. Tak bisa dihindari, taklukkan semua ambisi. Berjalan seiring perubahan, jelajahi semua kemajuan zaman. Tunjukkan pada dunia, kita mampu berelevasi jadi bangsa yang luar biasa.
Tumbuh kembang kami juga memberikan makna dan arti. Betapa pentingnya peran kami yang tak pernah lepas dalam hadirkan konektivitas. Kami yakin dan mampu untuk terus lewati batas dan merajut konektivitas. Indonesia.
Indonesia, a land of natural beauty and cultural diversity. The Ministry of State-Owned Enterprises has initiated a breakthrough by synergizing all state-owned enterprises in tourism through the Indonesia Journey, or InJourney. From airport and cargo services, tourist destination development, heritage and attraction management, hotels, retail management, to international events and our creative industries.
Kami percaya bahwa setiap hasil yang kami ciptakan adalah komitmen dari tanggung jawab kami menjawab perubahan. Perubahan menuju masa depan yang lebih baik, menciptakan mimpi menjadi kenyataan, mimpi bagi banyak orang, dan memberikan solusi untuk kemudahan. Kami merupakan manufaktur kereta api yang terintegrasi pertama di Asia Tenggara. Fokus kami adalah menghasilkan produk yang berkualitas tinggi di bidang perkeretaapian. Kami adalah mitra untuk membangun masa depan. Kami terus menatap ke depan untuk terus berinovasi, mengembangkan visi besar, membangun industri transportasi yang lebih baik.
When convenience is out of reach, only limitations remain. Constrained business navigation limits the potential growth. In business, flexibility is everything. It's time to unleash your business potential beyond limitation. BNI Direct is here to provide solutions. One unified digital platform with a diverse financial solutions to elevate your business to a whole new level. BNI Direct, directing your business to new heights.
Indonesia is the world's largest island country, consisting of over 17,000 islands. This would be a special agency to manage and guarantee the availability of land, to control the land, to manage the land use for economic development, including for public infrastructure, housing, investment, and agrarian reform. Land Bank Authority is a special agency or sui generis entity established by the central government in December 31st, 2021, given special authority to manage land.
Latar belakang berdirinya Badan Bank Tanah karena adanya ketidakseimbangan yang besar antara permintaan dan persediaan tanah, sehingga perlunya peran pemerintah untuk menguasai, mengendalikan, dan menyediakan tanah bagi pembangunan dan pemerataan ekonomi.
In line with responsibilities given by the Indonesian President and Land Bank Committee of 3 ministers, Land Bank Authority has a vision and mission to being catalyst for Indonesian economic growth. Land Bank Authority vision is to become a trustworthy land manager based on good governance to guarantee economic growth and economic equality. Land Bank Authority mission is to carry out various efforts related to land bank operational for public interest, social interest, national development interest, economic equality, land consolidation, and agrarian reforms, as well as improving community welfare to provide employment. Land Bank Authority is given special authority by the central government to following functions, specifically planning, land acquisition, land procurement, land management, land utilization, and land distribution.
Harapan Badan Bank Tanah yaitu menjadi lembaga yang terpercaya dalam rangka menciptakan ekonomi berkeadilan di bidang pertanahan untuk meningkatkan kesejahteraan rakyat.
With the responsibilities given to Land Bank Authority, we are confident we can increase the economic growth and justice for Indonesian citizens.
We, Hutama Karya, present our innovations in the construction industry with every changing era. Supported by the professionals in their fields, the latest construction technology operation techniques. We commit to generate best outcomes, aiming to deliver an equitable distribution of beneficial infrastructure for the entire country and build a bright future for our civilization. Our flagship infrastructure works from bridges, buildings, dams, and sustainable toll road infrastructures, showcasing our high commitment to protecting nature and the environment. We believe that our every step will shape our future, ensuring a developed future Indonesia. Utama Karya, innovation for solution.
Impian untuk hidup yang lebih berwarna, lebih dekat, lebih berarti. Karena rumah bukan sekedar bangunan, tapi sebuah benih untuk masa depan. Ini visi kami untuk menjadi pengembang pemukiman dan perumahan rakyat terpercaya di Indonesia. Bersama sejumlah lembaga terkemuka, Perumnas menyatukan impian dan menenun harapan kepemilikan rumah bagi setiap anak negeri. Dalam kebersamaan, kita menciptakan dunia bagi benih muda untuk tumbuh, belajar, dan berkembang. Perumnas, sebuah simfoni mimpi di mana setiap sekatnya membawa benih harapan akan masa depan yang lebih cerah. Bersama, kita bisa mewujudkan impian di tanah air tercinta.
For more than 7 decades, PLN has carried out the state's mandate to electrify the whole Indonesian archipelago. PLN is entering a new chapter in its transformation, aiming to become not just a power and utility company, but also a technology company based on innovations. All of this is to improve service quality, strengthening the domestic industrial ecosystem, and increasing competitiveness in the global stage.
Ini cerita akselerasi kita yang selalu aja ada tantangan pas kita lagi melesat.
Berat banget ya.
Mau nyerah aja. Enggak kan?
No lah, big no.
Bagus. Ini waktunya akselerasi. Makin banyak tantangan, makin banyak jalan. Ya nggak sih?
Yoi.
Asal.
Niat.
Nah, gitu. Kalau mau berakselerasi itu harus rame-rame.
Rame ini.
Yes, mantap.
Menyala bangku.
Yeah. Gak cuma sekedar wujudin mimpi, tapi ciptain inovasi. Semangat akselerasi ngedorong kita untuk terus berkolaborasi, biar ngasih impact positif buat bangsa Indonesia. Ayo, wujudin swasembada energi dengan terus berakselerasi tanpa henti. Pertamina, energizing the acceleration, energizing you.
Perubahan pasti terjadi. Tak bisa dihindari, taklukkan semua ambisi. Berjalan seiring perubahan, jelajahi semua kemajuan zaman. Tunjukkan pada dunia, kita mampu berelevasi jadi bangsa yang luar biasa.
Tumbuh kembang kami juga memberikan makna dan arti. Betapa pentingnya peran kami yang tak pernah lepas dalam hadirkan konektivitas. Kami yakin dan mampu untuk terus lewati batas dan merajut konektivitas. Indonesia.
Indonesia, a land of natural beauty and cultural diversity. The Ministry of State-Owned Enterprises has initiated a breakthrough by synergizing all state-owned enterprises in tourism through the Indonesia Journey, or InJourney. From airport and cargo services, tourist destination development, heritage and attraction management, hotels, retail management, to international events and our creative industries.
Kami percaya bahwa setiap hasil yang kami ciptakan adalah komitmen dari tanggung jawab kami menjawab perubahan. Perubahan menuju masa depan yang lebih baik, menciptakan mimpi menjadi kenyataan, mimpi bagi banyak orang, dan memberikan solusi untuk kemudahan.
Good afternoon, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the thematic session of the International Conference on Infrastructure. please enter Merak Room 1 and be seated because our event will begin shortly. A gentle reminder to please ensure that all mobile devices are switched to silent mode. Thank you.
Kami terus menatap ke depan untuk terus berinovasi, mengembangkan visi besar, membangun industri.
Good afternoon, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the thematic session of the International Conference on Infrastructure. Please enter Merak Room 1 and be seated because our event will begin shortly. A gentle reminder to please ensure that all mobile devices are switched to silent mode. Thank you.
Constrained business navigation limits the potential growth.
kami ada
Good afternoon, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the thematic session of the International Conference on Infrastructure. Please enter Merak Room 1 and be seated because our event will begin shortly. A gentle reminder to please ensure that all mobile devices are switched to silent mode. Thank you.
It's time to unleash your business potential beyond limitation. BNI Direct is here to provide solutions. One unified digital platform with a diverse financial solutions to elevate your business to a whole new level. BNI Direct, directing your business to new heights.
Indonesia is the world's largest island country, consisting of over 17,000 islands. This would be a special agency to manage and guarantee the availability of land, to control the land, to manage the land use for economic development, including for public infrastructure, housing, investment, and agrarian reform. Land Bank Authority is a special agency or sui generis entity established by the central government in December 31st, 2021, given special authority to manage land.
Latar belakang berdirinya Badan Bank Tanah karena adanya ketidakseimbangan yang besar antara permintaan dan persediaan tanah, sehingga perlunya peran pemerintah untuk menguasai, mengendalikan, dan menyediakan tanah bagi pembangunan dan pemerataan ekonomi.
In line with responsibilities given by the Indonesian President and Land Bank Committee of 3 ministers, Land Bank Authority has a vision and mission to be a catalyst for Indonesian economic growth. Land Bank Authority vision is to become a trustworthy land manager based on good governance to guarantee economic growth and economic equality.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. Good afternoon, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is a true pleasure for me to welcome you to the thematic session of the International Conference on Infrastructure. It's an honor for me to be here to host in today's afternoon session. I'm Alia Nisa Taib, your MC for today. This afternoon, we have the second thematic session, the last session for today, with the theme of decarbonizing transport, charting the energy transition across all modes. Before we start with the panel session, let me invite the respectful Director of Energy Conservation from the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources, Bapak Hendra Iswahyudi, to give his keynote remarks to commence the opening of this session. To Bapak Hendra, the time is yours.
Excellencies, representative from the coordinating Ministry of Infrastructure and Regional Development Republic of Indonesia, panelists and moderator, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, everyone. Warm greeting to you all. Thank you so much for attending this thematic session It is an honor to meet you all to the International Conference on Infrastructure, when we gather not only to discuss ideas, but to advance actionable solutions for a climate resilient future. Today's session focused thoughts on one of Indonesia's most urgent and strategic priorities in our national energy transition agenda, which is transport sector decarbonization. The energy sector is one of the most significant contributor to our greenhouse gas emission based on our enhanced NDC. The energy sector must mitigate 358 million tons of CO2 by 2030 through some strategies policies. Energy efficiency and also renewable energy becomes one of the most critical strategies, potentially contributing to mitigating around 37% and 51% of total emission. Historically, since 2019, our energy sector emission target have been achieved, and both renewable and energy efficiency have been driving this trend, including in transportation sector. The transport sector is responsible for nearly 23% of our national CO2 emission. It is also one of the largest consumers of fossil fuel. In 2024, more than 19% of its sectoral consumption still relies on oil product, driving over $15 billion of import annually, with an estimated fuel subsidies of up to $7 billion in recent years. Seeing the urgency of the clean energy in transportation, this event is an amazing opportunity to discuss how the mitigation effort in transportation sector might play an important part in achieving our emission reduction target in various modes of transportation. Moreover, it will be interesting how discuss how to coordinate the effort across the relevant sectors and stakeholders, particularly with the leadership and support from the coordinating Ministry of Infrastructure and Regional Development. Lately, on land transport, we are seeing encouraging momentum. The government upscaled the implementation of electric vehicle adoption and biofuel and hydrogen in both public and passenger transport to reduce the dependence toward imports. Since 2025, mandatory of P40 has implemented nationwide. We are currently preparing a comprehensive study of P15 and hydro-treated vegetable oil as complementary option. We also restarted bioethanol program through E5 market trial in 2023 and plan to implement the E10 mandatory program nationwide in 2033. The National Hydrogen Strategy and the National Hydrogen and Ammonia Roadmap outline the plan to integrate hydrogen into various transportation sectors, including heavy and public transportation. We also adoption of electric vehicle through incentive for electric vehicle production and sales, particularly in two-wheelers, and expanding charging station and battery manufacture plant. Based on electric vehicle roadmap, our target is to have up to 13 million electric motorcycles and 2 million units of electric cars on the road by 2035. This EV implementation program aims to reduce approximately 7 million tons of carbon dioxide with an estimated energy saving of 29 million barrels of oil equivalent. Moreover, the use of renewable energy, particularly of solar PV and rooftop installation, is prominent to complement the effort as it will provide the source of clean electricity for the transport infrastructure like the bus and railway station. To support the decarbonization of the land transport subsector, the number of electric buses operating on highway is projected to continue to increase, reaching about 1 million units by 2060. By 2027, green diesel implementation for train railway transport is also expected to further improve the decarbonization. Furthermore, we are currently assessing the potential of fuel economic standard implementation for heavy-duty vehicle like trucks, such as truck, to decarbonize the freight transport. In maritime sector, as an archipelago country, we are trying to integrate renewable on its energy mix through various programs, including the solar power ferries, biofuel for ships, and also the development of green ports. Biofuel mandates are implemented for ships to ensure that renewable fuel are used in domestic shipping operation. The government is exploring hybrid and electric ships as an alternative for short distance coastal shipping and smaller vessels. IMO Green Voyage 2015 in 2025 provides grant to Indonesia to convert conventional vessel into hybrid hydrogen batteries power for ships, reinforcing our commitment to low-emission marine transport solution. For aviation, we have successfully conducted BF tour, our aviation biofuel flight trials, and we are working closely with Pertamina and national airlines to develop the supply chain for sustainable aviation fuel. So far, a current technically viable proposed mix for biofuel blending mandates is at 5% by 2035. The first commercial flight test has been conducted in 2023 using a commercial aircraft fueled by G2.4, which is developed to comply with the international outdoor specification and the carbon offsetting and reduction scheme for international aviation criteria. Indonesia plans to implement G3, 3% of sustainable aviation fuel in 2026, 2027, and actively working to develop and produce sustainable aviation fuel leveraging local resources. To enable this transport sector transition, infrastructure development is absolutely critical, especially in three areas: electric vehicle, low carbon fuels alternative, and energy management. The first, the EV ecosystem. This includes scaling up charging station infrastructure, battery swapping station, and also energy efficiency and clean energy integration in public transport infrastructure, such as the encouragement of green port, green airport, and renewable power station or charging infrastructure by December 2024. A total of 3,000 SPKLU and charging station had been constructed over 2,000 locations. For swap battery, also roughly 2,000 units have been constructed over 200 sites. Second, the low carbon fuel alternative, such as biofuel and hydrogen ecosystem. Indonesia is already global leader in biodiesel implementation and aims to be the future hub of hydrogen development. We are currently mandating B35 blending, and we are preparing to enhance to this B40 by 2030. The importance of biofuel is not only in land transport but also maritime, as the biofuel blending is expected to reduce the need of conventional marine fuel oil, with further compliance of sulfur and carbon content from International Maritime Organization. Meanwhile, for aviation, sustainable aviation fuel must be developed in accordance with International Civil Aviation Organization standards. Third, based on the government regulation number 33 year 2023, we have lowered down the threshold of mandatory implementation of energy management for 5 categories of the energy user, including the transport sector. From the record, it is estimated that this mandatory management will reduce around 0.4 million ton of oil equivalent of energy consumption until 2030, which amounted to around 4.2 trillion rupiah of energy cost saving and potential reduce the emission around 1.4 million ton of carbon dioxide equivalent. The Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources, which is work in close synergy with several key stakeholders to accelerate this transition. With the Ministry of Transportation, we are currently in the process of aligning our long-term policy framework, including the target of EV penetration, green shipping, and also sustainable aviation fuel adoption. With the Ministry of Industry, we develop supporting policies for domestic EV and battery manufacturing, the downstreaming of EV, battery, and also biofuel industry are aimed to increase the job creation and industrial competitiveness. With the Ministry of Finance, we promote the green fiscal instrument, including tax incentive for EV adoption, budget allocation to encourage biofuel implementation, including fair use, sovereign green bonds, and grants to clean transport infrastructure. In wider the implementation, we are also working together to monetize the emission reduction from the mitigation action, including transport sector, such as for PT Transjakarta on compiling their mitigation action plan document as additional effort to tap into the carbon emission reduction certificate and secondary market opportunities. We hope to upscale this project into other scope of mitigation action, encouraging further decarbonization in transport. In closing my speech, I would like to call for cooperation, active participation, and strong support from stakeholders to develop innovative mechanisms for upscaling the mitigation effort, particularly in supporting the decarbonization of transport sector. Thank you. Looking forward to the fruitful discussion.
Ladies and gentlemen, another round of applause for Bapak Hendra. Bapak, may you please remain on stage as we will continue with the photo session. For this session and for the photo session, I would like to invite the moderator, Mr. Mark Schmidt, Managing Director and Senior Partner at Boston Consulting Group, BCG, and also the panelists of this session, Mr. Fadli Rahman, the Director of Strategic Planning and Business Development at PT Pertamina New and Renewable Energy, Mr. Raymond Naldi Rasfuldi, the President Director of PT Tripatra Engineers and Constructors, Mr. Marvin Reinhardt, Vice President, Investment Relation, Indonesia Battery Corporation, Mr. Anthony Utomo, as the Managing Director, PT Utomo Charge Plus Indonesia, Mr. Riza Jidin Zakaria, Head of Battery Infrastructure and Go-to-Market Sales of Electrum, and last but not least, Mr. Yanyan Muhammad Ahdiansyah from HDF Energy Indonesia. Our documentation team will help with the photo session, and I will count down 3, 2, and 1. Once more, 3, 2, and 1. Thank you, documentation team, and thank you to Mr. Hendra Iswahyudi. You may proceed back to your respected seats. And for the moderators and the panelists, you may take a seat on your seats on stage. Please stay on your seats on stage. To go through with the panel session, I give the time and floor to the moderator, Mr. Mark Schmidt. The time is yours.
Right. Thank you, Hendra, for the keynote and really introducing this topic fantastically. As briefly mentioned, my name is Mark Schmidt. I'm a senior partner at the Boston Consulting Group. I lead our climate sustainability topic within industrials, and within that obviously falls also transport, and particularly a topic that is dear to my heart, which is also low carbon fuels. I think we heard some great statements already in terms of what has been achieved and what is the ambition for Indonesia when it comes to decarbonizing transport. Just to put a couple of numbers back out there that we will be discussing today, about 23% of the GHG emissions of Indonesia are from the transport sector. So it's imperative, obviously, to address those as part of the overall net zero journey of Indonesia. And as Bapak Hendra said, you know, there's also a strategic element to this, given Indonesia imports on a yearly basis about 15 billion in oil products, which obviously also have a subsidy element attached to them. But if we look at some of the achievements that have been done, or at least targets that have been set, you know, we'll talk a bit about all three sectors today: aviation, maritime, and land transport. You know, just to mention, for example, the SAF roadmap that has been stated last year with targets already for 2027 and then increasing over time. Or if we look at some of the inroads made on the EV side and obviously the targets that are out there in terms of achieving that. I think those are all important topics for us to discuss today. So what progress have been achieved on the road to decarbonization? What are the largest changes that lie ahead and the challenges that still lie ahead for us in decarbonizing all three sectors: air, land, and maritime? And then obviously also, what are the enablers that we need also from a corporate side, you know, which are my panelists here today, and also maybe some expectations around what else can be done from a policy perspective to encourage our move forward. So to discuss this with me today, I have 6 panelists. So I think we'll get a good sense across the board around the answers to those 3 questions, or these 3 areas. So I'll start in the order of the lineup. So I'll start, so we have Riza Zakaria. Riza serves as a head of the battery infrastructure and go-to-market at Electrum, where has been instrumental in building the foundational products for Electrum, aligning with the market needs, providing integrated systems, including the rental facilities for electric motorbikes for use by online ride-hailing. So we'll hear about from Riza from that side. Then we have Anthony Utomo. He's the managing director at Utomo Charge Plus. Thank you. The largest provider of electric vehicle charging solutions in Indonesia and Southeast Asia, with over 1,000 charging points. So you can tell us something about scaling in this also serves on the energy transition program. Also serves on the energy transition program as the head of Kadin and vice chair at the Indonesian Solar Energy Association. Then I have Fadli Rahman. Fadli is the Director of Strategic Planning and Business Development at Pertamina New and Renewable Energy, NRE. Plays a crucial part in leading Pertamina's green transition overall. He's also part of, or the leader of the Clean Energy Task Force at ASEAN Council on Petroleum, if I got that correctly. And then we have Pa Raymond Rosfuldi. Pa Raymond is the President, Director, and CEO of Chipatra Engineers and Contractors, which is a leading Indonesian EPC provider, now specializing on new and renewable energy. And under his leadership, Chipatra has been instrumental in the company's investments in the biofuel ecosystem, technology, and infrastructure, and we'll hear more about that today. And then we have Yanyan Muhammad. He serves as the Innovative Project Manager for Asia at 8DF Energy, which is a French company, a global pioneer in hydrogen to power hydrogen solutions more broadly. And he's driving development of industrials and mobility-focused hydrogen infrastructure projects in Asia, and particularly, obviously, focusing hydrogen on the hard-to-abate sectors. And then, lastly, but not least, we have Marvin Reinhardt, who is the VP of Investor Relations at IBC, Indonesia Battery Corporation, which is Indonesia's state-owned battery manufacturer. Obviously, with the leadership team here leading the efforts in terms of becoming a global player in the EV supply chain. And he's also served, obviously, in other important roles before, like, for example, SK Energy. So, welcome to you all. And thank you for indulging us here in the next 45 minutes or so in terms of answering some of the key questions that we have. So if I can start with you, Pa Fadli, given Pertamina's large role here in terms of the transportation sector or providing into the transportation sector. So how is Pertamina's renewable energy portfolio being tailored towards the decarbonization of the transport sector? What efforts and moves have you been making?
All right, thank you, Mark, and thank you for inviting us to this wonderful event. So I think to start off, let me give you a little bit of data. As we know that we all are consuming around 38 billion liters of gas oil, 36 billion liters of gasoline every single year, and that itself equivalent to around 180 to 200 million tons of CO2 every single year. Right. In the aviation side, we're also consuming around 5.5 to 6 billion liter of aviation fuel, and in Pertamina, marine fuel oil consumption is around 300 million liters a year, which is, if we total everything, is still around 200 to 250 million of ton CO2 every single year. That is huge. I think that accounts for around 30% of Indonesia's total CO2 emissions. Right? So decarbonizing transportation matters, and it matters a lot. Right? Now, I think there are several ways of us in trying to decarbonize the transportation sectors. Of course, the longer path is to replace, right? Either to add or replace with bio component. Right? And we have successfully done for biodiesel so far in having a 40% component in B40, which is a huge reductions of CO2 emissions of around 25 million ton every single year, which is more than 10% of our totality for transport sector. Now, we need to replicate this success to the others. We need to replicate this success to gasoline with the introductions of bioethanol. We need to replicate this success to after, in the introductions of bioafter or SAF, right? And we need to replicate this success to marine fuel oil. Right? But this takes longer time, right? So yes, we're building all of this product to substitute or complement, whatever you want to call it, right? But in the near to mid-term, there are also some efforts that is needed to decarbonize, and that is in the name of efficiencies, in the name of optimizing, right? So these are the products that we're developing so far, and these are the efforts that we're doing so far, Mark.
Thank you, Fadli. I guess, the efforts that you highlighted cover also a lot of, I would say, more the commercial sort of vehicle side of it. Maybe if I could pass it to Anthony, because I guess your products go a lot also into the consumer side of land transport. So what have, I guess, been some of the milestone and I guess more systemic changes that you've seen that allowed you obviously to also grow as an enterprise that have taken place in the last few years, which have been sort of marking the real progress forward for Indonesia?
Yeah, thank you, Mark. I think it's very simple if we look on the numbers, because 2 years ago it was, I think it's around 2% of the new EV car sales. Last year we've seen the number growth almost 2 to 3 times to 5, considerably some people say it's 6%. And this year, our projection, the EV will go past through 100,000. So I think the numbers won't lie. And what is interesting on the customer and passenger car side is people will have the direct benefit out of it. We can always talk about the commercial, how we decarbonize airplanes and how we decarbonize boats, but things that are close to everyday people's problem is pollution, for example. And the users of EV can have a direct savings. The issue now is actually the infrastructure. I think this is where we see that the government has given a space for private sector to play a role. So our company, Charge Plus, currently we are probably now number 2 after PLN. We operate more than 600 locations in Indonesia. And what we are trying to do is fill that gap. But of course, it has to be economically viable. There has to be favorability of the government to ensure that charging is part of the facilities. It's not one of those premium features, but this is essential for people's daily lives. So what we've seen is enormous potentials, enormous opportunities, but we've seen also a lot of places where the regulation could have been somehow better to help us accelerate to fill that gap.
Thank you, Anthony. Maybe if I may briefly welcome Pak Rahmat Kamudin, who is now with us as well. So Pak Rahmat probably doesn't need an introduction, but he's the Deputy Coordinating Minister for Basic Infrastructure as part of the Coordinating Ministry for Infrastructure and Regional Development. Thank you for joining us, and if I can ask you, Your Excellency, if you want to give a couple of remarks.
Let the panels first one cycle, and then I'll join.
Okay, happy to. Thank you, Pak. Okay, so maybe, Pak Marvin, if I can ask you just to come in, because we're sort of talking about the land transport and I guess the battery EV ecosystem. So what kind of strategic initiatives is IBC taking at this moment to bring the strong integrated EV battery supply chain within Indonesia and feeding into the supply chain for land transport decarbonization?
So thank you, Mark. Maybe just to give a brief background on IBC itself. I don't think many people knows about IBC. So basically IBC is, we're an SOE actually. Our main job is, we're a strategic investment holding company within the EV ecosystem in Indonesia. We're trying to develop the whole value chain within the EV ecosystem itself. So starting from, so just after mining itself, starting from the smelting until you could say the whole cycle. So smelting, precursor, cathode, anode, battery cell, battery packing, charging, battery swapping, until the battery recycling itself. So we're trying to invite investors or partners to Indonesia and co-invest with us within any points within the value chain itself. One of the way for us to make sure that the EV ecosystem develops is basically to invite the right partners, right? And when you're talking about the right partners right now, maybe you've heard about what we're trying to hopefully close within the next few weeks, hopefully, cross fingers, with CATL, or what we call the Grand Package Project Dragon. So CATL will develop a battery cell manufacturing company with us. So that's one part of the ecosystem. They're also gonna go into partnership with Antam into other parts of the ecosystem itself, and also we're talking and developing another, hopefully other parts of the value chain with this strong partners, basically. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
thank you, thank you. So it's a lot about the strategic partnerships that you need to build,
Exactly.
given also where the scale that you also need to have as early part of the value chain.
Exactly, exactly, yeah. I think to have that strategic partners and the right partners is very important, especially considering, again, we're trying to build this industry from the ground up, right? And we know who the strong partners are globally, and that's why we're trying to bring them to Indonesia, basically. Yeah.
Thank you. Maybe go to Pariza. So we stay sort of in the land transport EV landscape. I guess you sit a bit downstream from the battery production. So how has Electrum sort of been thinking about building out, their manufacturing assembly here and building the business?
Thanks, Mark. Maybe also a quick context on Electrum introduction for everyone. We're a two-wheel EV ecosystem company, so we not only manufacture or build the bikes, but we also build the battery swapping station, but also our own batteries for the bikes, right? So in a way, we cover the whole product suite. And so we're very much in touch with other players on the upstream side, not only batteries, but also electricity, etc. For us, the goal, at least for manufacturing, at the end of the day, is about scale, right? When we want to localize and move it here, there's a minimum viable scale in a way that needs to be met so that it makes sense, right? Localizing is just easy. We can just build it any time of the day. But the question is how to do it in a more business viable and also the rationale works, right? And that is the challenge of us as players here, the manufacturers, to build that scale through demand. And I think that's right now is our main focus for the last 1 or 2 years. Anthony had mentioned that the numbers are growing well for four-wheelers. For two-wheelers, of course, it's not as fast as we had hoped, but we're seeing good progress. I think for context, our two-wheeler market is the third largest in the world, right? We're only behind India and China in terms of total population and also sales. So the market opportunity is huge. But then the question is, how do we actually make EV workable for this segment, which traditionally two-wheel buyers are not economically, say, as rich as the four-wheeler buyers, right? They're very price sensitive. But at the end of the day, they're actually the ones that needs the most benefit out of EV, which is the cost saving, the economic benefit of it, and then the less hassle of it. So our focus right now in Electrum is building that demand base. How do we build good products? How do we partner with people, with financing companies, with utility companies, and also work with the government together so that the market can be built? Once that number is then met, then building manufacturing is relatively quite simple, right? Because then it unlocks the scale needed, not only for ourselves, but also for our upstream suppliers. It makes the discussion with, say, local suppliers way more easier because then they can say, hey, I can invest this much because I know on a yearly basis this number is going to be met. So for us, I think that's not only the challenge that we, Electrum, is facing, but I think all of our other two-wheeler players are facing as well over here.
Thank you. And I guess you're also referring to not just, as you said, not the scale for yourself, but ultimately the ecosystem like it has been built for the ICE engines in the past here for the four-wheelers, and I guess the two-wheelers as well.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Great. Let's maybe briefly switch gears to air transport, Pa Raymond. So, you've been one of the pioneers in Tripatra in championing sustainable aviation fuel, and obviously this is important for the global decarbonization of the aviation sector, but also, as we heard, for Indonesia. So what strategic steps has Tripatra taken, have you taken to develop, to scale, I guess, also this SAF sector more broadly, and what does it mean, I guess, for the broader biofuel sector from your perspective?
Okay, thank you, Mark, for the interesting question, and thank you everybody for attending this session this afternoon. Well, I think, Tripatra, as Mark explained earlier, we are an engineering company, right? So our involvement basically in SAF, interestingly, is basically being provided by Kilang Pertamina International, right? Yes, we try to push SAF now, but our move actually started when we actually are being asked to actually design the TDHT plant that is producing the SAF in Cilacap, a couple of years ago, right? And that's when we actually started and see the opportunity to look at decarbonizing aviation, because from the engineering perspective, I shared what Pak Fadli said, right? We do a lot of energy optimization, revamping, industrial revamping work, as a basic low-hanging fruit, to help decarbonize early, but also looking at what is possible from the resources perspective. I think that's what interests us in SAF. Because if you look at opportunity, it is very interesting, right? If you look at Indonesia SAF, just looking at it from various technology route for SAF, for HEFA, the most ready technology now that is available, the Indonesian potential is 5 million ton per year of production of SAF. If you look at alcohol to jet, the second basically most ready technology, it's 4 million ton per year, right? We are not talking about the Fischer Tropsch, the more advanced e-fuel type of thing. We're talking about the most ready technology now. And if you look at the SAF demand of the world in 2027 is forecasted to be 10 million and then 20 million in 2030. So Indonesia have a chance to play a very big role in basically in SAF. And in the roadmap that we actually have, right now we are targeting about 5%, and from the 60 million ton that Pak Vatli mentioned on jet fuel, it's roughly around 300,000 ton per year in 2030. So the gap is there, right? Indonesia has enough resources that Indonesia control that we can not only satisfy our needs, for SAF, as per the roadmap for Indonesia, but also supplying the world. So I think that's where our perspective is. Looking at what possible, and then learning the business, understanding basically what is the challenges of the SAF producers in the world. That the price is so high, or understanding why they cannot operate at capacity, because that's a problem all over the world. And it's about feedstock, it's about model and all that. It's about building an ecosystem. So one of that's a long way to answer your question, basically, Mark. One of the key steps that we did is really building the ecosystem from feedstock to offtake to support SAF, and understanding each stakeholder needs, right? If you look at the plantation, again, it's a resource and supply business. It's a trade business. They don't take risks in processing and all of that. They don't, right? So at the end is how are we going to be able to actually include them in the ecosystem to support basically the feedstock for SAF production, where then we can supply SAF for Indonesia and for the world at the lowest cost possible, right? And then looking at off-taker, of course, if you talk about HEFA technology for SAF, it's palm oil, and there is mixed acceptance, you can say that, of the world for SAF, and a lot of that needs to be clarified, right? So we are working with the with Ministry of Transportation, for example, for the certification of the Indonesian feedstock, to meet sustainability needs, right? But we also see opportunities where there are feedstock in Indonesia that is accepted with some part of the world, but not necessarily accepted by EU, right? So there is a chance for Indonesia to create a market for SAF, which later the world can follow, because we have all the feedstock, right? So I think building that ecosystem, I think it's important for us. I mean, from the plantation, and then the offtake. I mean, talking to Europe, talking to Japan, talking to Korea. Basically, what is possible? I mean, what is the potential and the reality of what is available in Indonesia? Talking to the stakeholder, the government. I mean, IBTKA, right? And I think the Marbes before and then now. Infra will really help us in actually to have to coordinate the other stakeholder. I think that was important. And lastly, basically how to be able to create a business model for Indonesia, because we do believe that, I mean, the user or the demand side, which is the Europe, the American business model, doesn't necessarily fit the Indonesian business model, because the Indonesian business model is a supply side business model. We will be able to actually supply more instead of demand. So I think a different business model, looking at the best business model on that, and that's how what we have done and continue to push. I mean, building that ecosystem with other plantation, other producer even, in trying to push that through and advocating Indonesian SAF outside of Indonesia. Right.
Thank you, Pak Raymond. And I think, obviously, like in the EV discussion, you highlight how it's important to have the right positioning in the supply chain, value chain, and we have the resources, the raw materials, for all of these, also in Indonesia. So it's really a Indonesia business model, I think, as you describe it. So, Pak Yanyan, if I can come to you finally as well, something that is maybe not as well known as the opportunity that hydrogen provides in, well, actually all transport sectors as well. So, yeah, we'd love to hear from you around how you, HDF, are thinking about providing decarbonization solutions into the transport sector.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. So for the context, HDF Energy is the developer hydrogen to power. So we have also our own fuel cell that can convert hydrogen into electricity. So here, actually, that in general, I think in the technical context, hydrogen role is more like the sector that cannot be electrified. I think we know that the first step to decarbonize everything is to electrify it. And if the sector cannot be electrified, that the hydrogen take a role. For example, in the hard-to-abate sector, and also in terms of this, transportation as well. For example, we know that for the shipping sector, and I think aviation and also heavy truck, that when the battery kind of challenging to support or give the solution, the hydrogen take a role. So that's the highlight for this kind of solution. In the Indonesian context, also similar. I think for the how hydrogen can decarbonize this kind of sector, I think in the maritime sector, we can see in the shipping sector. So for the IMO, they have like a mandatory to reduce the emission. There is a 3 option to decarbonize in the maritime sector using hydrogen and hydrogen derivatives, maybe like ammonia or methanol. But right now, we don't know yet which one we have to use. I think still in the development, still in the discussion, which one is more the economical way, which one is more in the technical feasible way. So in Indonesia, so HDF Energy developed more in the power plant solution. So we know, I think if you're talking about the European people or like institution, I think it's similar with Paramount said, I think we have different kind of business model like in Indonesia, in the US, and also in the Europe. If you're talking about the hydrogen for power, it's not make sense. I think in the hydrogen ladder frame, there is a study that if you want to develop or utilize hydrogen, there's some kind of sector that is prioritized, and power is not the priority using hydrogen. But in Indonesia context, we know that many islands still rely on diesel power plant. So we try to integrate between renewable energy and hydrogen as a storage. We can provide 24-hour electricity with a cheaper price than renewable energy plus BESS or cheaper than diesel power plant. So that's the context on the island. So we have this kind of opportunity for this one, that the integration of the plant, we can provide also hydrogen that can be provided into the port. So it means that the ferry, for inter-island ferry, they can utilize the hydrogen for our plant. So in this case, in Indonesia context, we want to see like the regional kind of case. So we cannot say that all the transportation, like for example, all ferry has to be use hydrogen or all the plant has to be like use hydrogen. I think it's kind of regional context. In the eastern of Indonesia, that is kind of challenging. They can challenging of the supply chain. They can challenging like about the decarbonization of if we can produce there, we can utilize there. So it means it's supposed to be more clean and also it's more sustainable. So we can produce first hydrogen for the power, so it can replace the diesel. It means also cheaper electricity. And also we can produce hydrogen for the ferry itself, so they can decarbonize and also they can get affordable hydrogen price. Because we found out that if we kind of integrated power plant and also like the hydrogen plant, we can get to optimize the cost. So the electricity cost can be cheaper and also the hydrogen cost also can be cheaper. So that's also I have mentioned before that we working with IMO and also MOT to develop the study for ferry using hydrogen, that hydrogen is coming from us. So that's for the maritime sector. And the second, I think for the land transportation, we know that in the Europe, I think the train tried to use the hydrogen. So, but we have to see like a regional context, like I mentioned before. So for the train, we cannot say that all the train has to be used hydrogen. So if the train can be electrified, I think it will be more make sense for technical and economical way. But if the train itself cannot be electrified, and for example, for the long range locomotives, we can retrofit or we can change the fuel using hydrogen. So it can be with the combustion or it can be using fuel cells. So that also the case. Similar with the aviation, I think. So the hydrogen itself is kind of like the raw material, but the derivatives, a lot of derivatives coming from the hydrogen. Ammonia is like the hydrogen plus nitrogen, like the methanol, it's a hydrogen plus carbon, like that. So if you're talking about the green fuel that zero emission, we're talking about the green hydrogen plus something. But the challenge is more about the price. So we have to see, like for the regional context, which one is more the economical use transport that more makes sense using hydrogen. So in our opinion, as an HDF, the ferry for inter-island ferry is like the priority because we know the benefit of that. But for other transportation, we have to see like the very close context. And the last one, the one of transportation maybe is not like the public or passenger transportation that could be also using hydrogen. It's like the heavy equipment from the mining sector. So for the transportation, because if talking about the using battery for the EV, for the heavy equipment, there is a space that cannot be facilitated. So the hydrogen versus the battery, talking about the density, I think, and also more on the space needed. So when the battery cannot fulfill the solution for the decarbonization for transportation, is hydrogen come. Thank you.
Thank you, Parayanyan. And I think what you highlight is also the business case for each solution, each use case can be quite different, even for different location or different context that you're solving for it. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Ahmad, if I may hand the mic to you for a minute.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Mark. First of all, thank you for moderating this and all the speakers, Pareman, and all the friends. So maybe quickly, just want to highlight a couple of things. Maybe building on what Fadli said. What is the government problem? We talk about decarbonization, very important. We have 2060 goal, but most importantly, we also want to make sure that we reach self-reliance, self-sufficiency in energy, swasembada energy. So maybe quickly allow me to look at the HESI data. This is from Ministry of Energy data. This is our energy supply in Indonesia. So we produce about 3,600 billion barrel of oil equivalent, and we actually export a lot. We export about almost 2,000 million barrel of oil equivalent. So Indonesia is very rich in energy. We only use about 1,800, 1,900, call it. But what is weird is the blue thing there, the one that says 401, we import. So imagine a country that produce 3,600, only use 1,900, but import 400. Why do we need to import, right? So I think the problem is that the way we use our energy is, unfortunately, we actually use something that we don't have, which is oil, right? So a lot of this is oil. Then quickly, that is, and the oil mostly is actually being used for transportation. Maybe next slide. So this is not, yeah, but this is the split of energy consumptions. Oil is actually quite a lot. We actually use it directly. We talk a lot about electricity typically. Electricity is only about 16% of end-use consumption in Indonesia. 40% is actually oil. So I think what we are discussing today is very, very critical. But of course, we cannot forget about the fact of the matter is that we do still have about 150 million vehicles that is using oil. And it will take time for them to change. So while doing that, hopefully in the future, in 2045, we don't use liquid oil anymore for transport. So we can give all the feedstock to Pak Raymond for SAF. Yeah, I just quickly, Indonesia use about 5 to 6 million efficient fuel, give or take, right? All edible fuel, oil in the world is about 200 million ton. Jet fuel about 300 million ton, give or take. Of that 200 million ton, about 50 million is actually from Indonesia. So, but today the 10 million, we actually, or more than 10 million, we use it for cars, which is something that we can electrify. So I think there is a lot of hope for Indonesia to be provider. But you know, the reason why I invite everybody here, the hydrogen guys, SAF guys, biofuel guys, everybody, to know that this transition will take time. But we do have enough energy to decarbonize our transport, and hopefully with this discussion, we have more ideas to chart better transition in Indonesia. Thank you, Pak Mark.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think that really focuses the conversation, I guess, ups the game for us here on stage. So I guess continuing that spirit, and also I guess how Rahmat has framed, I think, the biofuel conversation. Pak Fadli, if I can ask you again as well. Obviously, biofuel is a solution, you know, at the moment, you know, for sectors also where EV cannot play a role. I mean, obviously, airline is one of them. You highlighted some others also before. So, I guess, how are you thinking about, you know, the challenges, opportunities, and further scaling up sort of more that biofuel sector, at least in a transition type of fuel role, right, for some areas?
Right. So from our point of view, we've seen that this decarbonization wave is always an opportunity for us, either to create a new business, to create a new product, or to make ourselves more efficient in so many ways, right? So there are always two prongs of activities here. Now, there's an interesting article earlier this year from Daniel Yergin et al. It's titled "The Energy Transition Needs Reality Check." Right? It needs reality check because apparently the way we've seen energy transitions for the past 3 years and the way we've experienced energy transitions for the past 3 years has been completely wrong, right? It is more going towards energy addition rather than energy transition itself. So it's more energy addition rather than energy transitions. So we're trying to add the new energy, renewable energy rather than replacing the old fossil fuel with the new energy, right? So it also applies for, unfortunately, for transportation sectors as well, right? You know, you've heard Pak Rahmat mention that we have all the resources. Pak Raymond said we have all the resources, right? The technology is there. Right? It's there. So why it hasn't happened so far? Right? Well, apparently, yes, we have been successful in biodiesel. We're the largest producer and consumer of biodiesel, right? So that's one, which we need to appreciate the government for pushing. But on the other sides, bioethanol, for example, it is not about the technology. It's about the commerciality and it's about the feedstock, for example. So that's a challenge that we've seen. For bioafter, right? The technology is there. It's about the commerciality. Bioafter is 2 to 3 times more expensive than after, right? Marine fuel as well. The technology is there, right? So I think we need to step back and to relook into our plan, whether or not we're making them very ambitious or we're looking at it from the wrong side. For example, in electricity, let me just give an example for power sector, for example. What is stated in that article by Daniel Jurgen, if anyone here is from the energy sector will know who Daniel Jurgen is, right? Nobel laureate and all. So he said that we've been looking into energy transition the wrong way. It's not about the sources, it's about the demand, right? The demand in the electricity sector supposed to require the cleaner energy. It's not because whether or not the supplier can supply the renewable energy, they can. Because it's not about technology, it is about the demand itself. Right? So this is the most, and the way we create the demand itself. So this is the main challenge that we've been facing so far, Mark.
And so, Pa Raymond, if I can call you out on this one, you've been nodding. I mean, would you any other ads or different views?
I think I'm in line with that perspective because one of the things I mean in this energy transition, I think there is a lot of I think planning or strategy is being based on labeling of sustainability. Right. I think it is interesting that I think we recognize. Pak Vatli mentioned again. FAME is one of the most successful, basically carbon reduction. If you look at in transportation that Indonesia done, but if you go outside of Indonesia, they might not consider that sustainable. So I think the measurement is also had to be clear. Right now. The basis of the transition is how much you can replace or add basically new energy from sources that is labeled sustainable. Instead of, for example, why don't we measure basically the reduction on carbon intensity from each and every activities that's done, right? The 50% or 30% farming program that reduces significantly, basically, carbon intensity when we actually use diesel, but because it doesn't reduce it more than 70%, it's not being labeled sustainable. Because that's the definition that's out there in terms of sustainability. So I think the race to actually then look at how carbon intensity can be reduced, and then the demand side can say, okay, how much should we pay for those reduction? Then it becomes interesting. It becomes a transition. It's not like flipping your hand or flipping a page saying that, okay, we go from this sources to the next sources. I think that will help the discussion on the demand side if the perspective is not labeling of the sustainability, but it's the carbon intensity reduction itself. I think that's what I would like to add.
Thank you, Pa Raymond. Pa Riza, if I can come to you, not just because you were nodding just now, but just to bring
everyone's nodding. So, yeah, so Roulette,
sorry,
go ahead.
I'll just pick on you anyway. No, I think just to bring it back also to the EV ecosystem or the electrification of transport, right, which I think Pak Rahmat was calling out as a big push from his perspective going forward, you know, to reduce also the reliance on fuel imports and maybe prioritize biofuels to other sectors that are needed maybe more. So how are you kind of, you know, we talked about the ecosystem briefly in the prior round. So how are you thinking about, I guess, building that ecosystem, bringing economic commercial solutions into the market that also, I guess, stimulate demand, meet the demand, you know, that Pak Fadli was talking about?
Right. So I think when we talk about electrification, I think we need to realize that it's not only about cars, right? Like cars is a part of it, but then commercial vehicle is also there, trucks are also there, motorcycles or two-wheelers are also there, right? And so every part of the different sector or verticals, they have their own challenges and different key success factors to make it work for the demand, right? I read, and I don't know the validity of this, right? But I read somewhere that, hey, actually, it's the trucks and the commercial vehicle that's probably the biggest contributor to, say, transport CO2, for example. And so, but then challenges to decarbonize that sector is totally different from, say, four-wheelers passenger or two-wheelers passenger, right? And so, I think the way that we've been seeing all of this is just predominantly focus on the passenger side, but then how about the other non-passenger sector, which is probably the most intensive, right? I think coming back to Electrum case, our focus for the market is two-wheeler, but more on the ride-hailing segment, so the operational workers, those who are doing gig rides, those who are doing parcels, the drivers who are doing, say, 3 to 4 times the normal distance of the users per day, because those are the people who are very intensively using gasoline that we're now shifting to electricity, right? So we focus on that segment. I mean, primarily not because we want to save the most carbon. It's a byproduct, to be fair. But then it's morely because these are the segment that probably will gain more from EV's efficiency and from EV's cost saving, right? So I think that's how we think about, at least for the two-wheeler side, which segment gains the most value out of this electrification, out of this transition, and then that value might not be about carbon savings. It might be leading to, say, other more tangible and more realistic value add that impacts their lives, right? And when we do this to our segment of, say, the ride-hailing driver, the parcel drivers, it's easy for them to transition because, hey, now I'm saving 30% of my fuel. And so that transition, that adjustment is becoming very easy, right? But then the next question is, okay, then how do we build a good product for them from the vehicle side? How do we build a good enough infrastructure for them so that it's the similar user experience as, say, using a gasoline? How do we not ask them to do more effort to change, but actually just make it the same or even better, right? I think that's the challenge for us as say, players in the private sector, but also ones where we need help from the government to make this journey hopefully a bit easier, right? So that's how we think about demand. That's how we see, okay, different sectors will have different use cases, different value levers. Which ones will benefit this the most on the transition side, and not only from, say, a sustainability standpoint, but more on, say, commercial standpoint, or even like a comfortability standpoint, right? And that's how we try to frame it.
Right. And so obviously that takes a lot of, I guess, innovation, development, capital. Okay. Maybe back to Marvin, if I may, stay with the EV theme just now. I guess you talked a bit about the partnerships, that you're developing with CATL. I guess that's more sort of on the side of the battery development, battery technology. But how does that integrate also with, I guess, the demand side? You're probably looking at all transport sectors when you think about IBC products.
Yeah, I think adding up on what he's saying is that basically we understand that again, this is a new industry, right? We're trying to build a new industry in Indonesia, an EV ecosystem. there needs to be a strong relationship between the private sector and the government. I completely agree with you, Pak. That's what we're trying to do, IBC in itself. We understand that from the private sector, they're targeting directly on, let's say, the downstream, let's say the market itself, right? I think right now, in this moment in time, our job is to make your job easier when you're building that bike, let's say. That's what we're trying to achieve with partnering with the strategic partners, let's say CATL or whoever, to have that, again, that value chain in Indonesia. Hopefully by having this value chain in Indonesia, starting from smelter until, let's say, battery cell manufacturing, it will be cheaper for you guys to build your bikes, and including even your charger, I think. But I think that's what we're trying to achieve. But I completely agree that at this moment in time, you should target certain segment on to bring them into this electrification process. Some segment of the market, you could say, doesn't have enough incentive to change their mindset, to change their, let's say, their car, their bikes, or whatever. So that's why I think it's very important, this synergy between private sector and the government itself, to slowly build on that demand and to show that the supply is there. The value chain for the supply is actually there, and it's getting cheaper. It's actually built in Indonesia, and so forth and so on. And hopefully that will prop up the demand more, I think. Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Pak Marvin. Good. We're getting to sort of the home stretch of the round. So I guess a couple of maybe thoughts from some of you around what the critical, I guess, enablers are to further drive the sector. I mean, you mentioned some of it already, but maybe just to go on those a little bit deeper. Maybe start again with Pak Raymond, if I may. No, just because, I mean, obviously, building stuff is important in this. We're building new sectors. We're building new fuel supply, battery manufacturing sites, and so forth. So, how do you see, Tripatra as a sort of more engineering firm in its roots, right? Sort of contribute to that going forward. I guess particularly on the biofuel side, but also I guess what are maybe some others could learn from the approach that you're taking.
Thank you, Mark. I think this is interesting. Me and Pak Fadli often have a discussion about ethanol. I mean, we agree on basically on the need for it and a lot, but we might not necessarily align on what route to take. I'm talking about the technology route that impact what's available feedstock to meet basically the needs. And I think that's where the engineering in us basically always see what is possible and trying to align it with what is feasible, right? I mean, so I think that's one thing that you can take. I think from the technical side. Again, I totally agree in building businesses. The technology side is usually not the most complex problem or not the most difficult problem to solve, but it does provide an opportunity to look at things differently. I mean, one of the things that we look at right now, because from the technical side, right? I mean, this push, for farming, going from 30%, 40%, 50%. Okay, that's good. That's a good program. But in that production, what are the waste being produced? Is there any value of those waste to be converted to energy or to product, to whatever that can be a bio-based product that can replace the petroleum-based product, right? And again, because there will be significant, basically increase in that production, this waste might be so abundant that there is more of them than what can be used with the current product right now. So there is an opportunity. So I think that's what I can say, Mark. I think from us as an engineering company, we always look at what's possible. right? But not try not to get ahead of ourselves. I mean, that whatever that is possible must be done. No, we have to actually combine it and work with the commercial side on what is feasible, and then move on. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Bob. But Anthony, if I can come back to you. I mean, you talked a bit about what you have done so far in terms of also the charging infrastructure. I guess, what are your plans going forward? How do you look at the future? And what are the things that you need ultimately to achieve that? You know, and then obviously one clear one could be around government policy or other enablers. We would love to hear a bit more from you.
Yeah, Mark, I think there are two sides of the coin, right? The easiest one is, I have shared earlier, charging infrastructure has always been one of those top 3 barriers when it comes to clean mobility adoption. So I wish that our regulators and the ecosystem will be seeing the infrastructure as part of the basic issues that has to be resolved collectively. How we can collectively resolve that, one of the easiest approaches through regulation. And as we know, in Indonesia, in our bylaw, the SLF, for example, the Standard Layak Fungsi or the worthiness certificate does not require a public and shared infrastructure as part of the checklist. Another approach is probably, if we see on the supply side, EV is always been considered as what my friend Fadli says, a demand and value creation. But what does that demand do? It has a very surge of need, and then suddenly after the charging session ends, it goes down. So how we can flatten up the curve? And it will be ideal if someone from PLN is here, but allow me to share some of my key thought as if I'm part of the supply process. Okay. Because the demand side are very critical to match with the supply side. As we know, there are a lot of advices, recommendation, encouragement to install at home. I am personally against this, and it might be subjective because we are in the charging business, but let me share to you the issue that we might face when there are 200,000 cars charging on the same time on Jakarta Selatan. It will bring a lot of demand surge on the peak hour on night time. And this is something that is public knowledge, that nighttime is a peaker time. So how can we push that and give a incentivification and disincentivization to charge at noontime, for example, where all the solar rooftop make a lot of duck curve problem on the grid. So I think this kind of demand response and matching with a few gigawatt hour that are mobile around us through EV, it's something that will be interesting to work on in the regulation side, whether it's going towards tariff, whether it's having a connectivity with the supply side. It's something that I think we should progressively working together as part of this collective new ecosystem.
That's a great point, and I guess, you know, also directly, given the structure of the energy industry here, there's clear players, as you highlight, like PLN, that play a role here, not just the overall regulator, right? So, great. And then, you know, I think you already talked a bit about infrastructure. Bringing it back to you, Pak Yan. I mean, I guess you're also dependent on, at least in some areas of the use cases you described before, dependent on infrastructure investment. So, I guess what are your to proliferate green hydrogen as a solution? What kind of infrastructure requirements, wish list, I guess, would you have to support also the development of that sector?
Yeah, thank you, Mark. So just like for the information that if you want to produce like the green hydrogen using like electrolysis process, the high cost of electricity can be affect like 70% of the high cost of hydrogen. So the requirement, the first one is like the cheap electricity with the renewable electricity. So if you're talking about the green hydrogen, there is a two perspectives. We're talking about the hydrogen in general or green hydrogen, right? If we're talking about the green hydrogen, so it means we want to produce hydrogen from the renewable energy. And it means like we want to produce hydrogen from electricity that if we're talking about the in financial problem, like if talking about the price, that the 70% of the price of hydrogen is because of the electricity. So if we can reduce the price of electricity, we can reduce the price of electricity from the renewable energy, we can reduce a lot of hydrogen price. That's the second. That's the first. The second is more in the electrolysis side. So I think now we know, like for the renewable energy technology and renewable energy, including like the hydrogen technology like electrolysis, we don't have it in Indonesia. So if you want to make it more like energy security, we have to own our renewable energy technology and we have to own our own electrolysis technology. So if we can get that, so we can produce that and also we can reduce the price, we can reduce the price of hydrogen. So that's the one that I think needed right now, because the main challenging for hydrogen is like we have to compete with the current fuel that very, very cheap. So that's why I think if you're talking about the infrastructure, that the two main infrastructure that we need right now.
Great, thank you, Pak Yanyan. And I guess the clock is ticking, as my panelists can see. So I think we need to wrap at this point in time. But thank you so much, first of all, for the very rich conversation. I think there were some key call-outs that I can see today. We talked a lot about scaling, scale up, economic, viable, I guess, scale, building ecosystems. I also heard a lot about, I guess, what's the right solution, the Indonesia model, I think, Parliament, as you called it, or what's the right also solution model wherever we are in Indonesia, so not one size fits all. So I guess it just highlighted the complexity I think that we're facing, and I think great. I mean, ultimately, you're all part of young companies here, right? Maybe sprung out of more established companies, but I think it really needs these pioneers also to think about and innovate to find the right solutions. Notwithstanding, I think the calls for also the right policy, regulatory environment and context, I guess, that, for example, the electricity sector can give to the electrification. And so thank you so much, Pa Riza, Pa Anthony, Pa Fadli, Pa Raymond, Pa Yanyan, Pa Marvin for the great conversation. Really appreciate it, and looking forward to the next one. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, another applause for the moderator and the panelists of today's session. Thank you, esteemed speakers, for the very fruitful session this afternoon, and you may return to your seats. This concludes our session on decarbonizing transport, charting the energy transition across all modes. We hope that the session this afternoon can ignite opportunities and the spirit in the future regarding energy transition. I will kindly remind all guests that the ICI 2025 project catalog can be fully accessed in the infrastrukturuntuksemua.id/project-catalog. Here, you can find the comprehensive overview of all projects and even find the contact persons should you want to schedule a one-on-one meeting to ask for further information. I will also remind that there will be a business matching event tomorrow, Thursday, 12th of June, divided into 2 rooms from the Ministry of Public Works at 12:30 p.m. at Murai Room, and also from the Ministry of Housing and Settlements at 9 a.m. at Unuri Room. Please also kindly visit the exhibition hall for investment opportunities. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we are now at the final session of today's session in the ICI. We will see you again tomorrow, and I am Alianisa Taib signing off. Enjoy. Thank you.
Utama Karya present our innovations in the construction industry with every changing era. Supported by the professionals in their fields, the latest construction technology operation techniques. we commit to generate best outcomes, aiming to deliver an equitable distribution of beneficial infrastructure for the entire country and build a bright future for our civilization. Our flagship infrastructure works from bridges, buildings, dams, and sustainable toll road infrastructures, showcasing our high commitment to protecting nature and the environment. We believe that our every step will shape our future, ensuring a developed future Indonesia. Utama Karya, innovation for solution.
Impian untuk hidup yang lebih berwarna, lebih dekat, lebih berarti. Karena rumah bukan sekadar bangunan, tapi sebuah benih untuk masa depan. Ini visi kami untuk menjadi pengembang pemukiman dan perumahan rakyat terpercaya di Indonesia. Bersama sejumlah lembaga terkemuka, Perumnas menyatukan impian dan menenun harapan kepemilikan rumah bagi setiap anak negeri. Dalam kebersamaan, kita menciptakan dunia bagi benih muda untuk tumbuh, belajar, dan berkembang. Perumnas, sebuah simfoni mimpi di mana setiap sekatnya membawa benih harapan akan masa depan yang lebih cerah. Bersama, kita bisa mewujudkan impian di tanah air tercinta.
For more than 7 decades, PLN has carried out the state's mandate to electrify the whole Indonesian archipelago. PLN is entering a new chapter in its transformation, aiming to become not just a power and utility company, but also a technology company based on innovations. All of this is to improve service quality, strengthening the domestic industrial ecosystem, and increasing competitiveness in the global stage.
Ini cerita akselerasi kita yang selalu aja ada tantangan pas kita lagi melesat.
Berat banget ya.
Mau nyerah aja. Enggak kan?
No lah, big no.
Bagus. Ini waktunya akselerasi. Makin banyak tantangan, makin banyak jalan. Ya nggak sih?
Yoi!
Asal...
Niat!
Nah, gitu. Kalau mau berakselerasi itu harus rame-rame.
Rame ini?
Yes! Mantap!
Menyala bangku!
Yeah! Gak cuma sekedar wujudin mimpi, tapi ciptain inovasi. Semangat akselerasi ngedorong kita untuk terus berkolaborasi, biar ngasih impact positif buat bangsa Indonesia. Ayo, wujudin swasembada energi dengan terus berakselerasi tanpa henti. Pertamina, energizing the acceleration, energizing you.
Perubahan pasti terjadi. Tak bisa dihindari, taklukkan semua ambisi. Berjalan seiring perubahan, jelajahi semua kemajuan zaman. Tunjukkan pada dunia, kita mampu berelevasi jadi bangsa yang luar biasa.
Tumbuh kembang kami juga memberikan makna dan arti. Betapa pentingnya peran kami yang tak pernah lepas dalam hadirkan konektivitas. Yakin dan mampu untuk terus lewati batas dan merajut konektivitas. Indonesia.
Indonesia, a land of natural beauty and cultural diversity. The Ministry of State-Owned Enterprises has initiated a breakthrough by synergizing all state-owned enterprises in tourism through the Indonesia Journey, or InJourney. From airport and cargo services, tourist destination development, heritage and attraction management, hotels, retail management, to international events and our creative industries.